Yeah. I think it's good. Yeah, just want to give him a nudge, a little more room. Thank you. Everybody that's up. That's in the shots and started. So yeah, just for reference, there's your people online, or you'll see yourself. I'll just tilt it down so it's kind of more. There we are. Okay, so I'll be back in 1 minute. You can pop that on. That's just a magnet. So I'll be right back.
I'm live now.
Yeah, just because we're keeping it.
Rolling.
Okay.
This is fun. I actually gave Malcolm this for this purpose. I'm glad he's using it. I've got a bit of a lower back issue that happened. I have a lower back issue that happened when I was 11 years old, carrying a fridge down a flight of stairs myself. And that's why I couldn't join you for the exercise earlier, because I can't stand still for more than about 45 seconds or my back starts firing. So that's why I'm in a stool. Yeah, things come back to haunt us. So I forget what Malcolm just said. Am I supposed to start? So I'll just wait a minute.
You know what the funny thing is, even myself, about 5 years ago, I got a thyroid. But I was lucky that somebody referred me to a chiropractor. And even though I didn't tell the chiropractor, he was able to do that simply by feeling the heat coming off my skeleton. He says, yeah, you have a problem down here. And I lived with that for probably 10 years. And he fixed it.
Okay, well, good.
This is it?
Yeah. All right. Haha, welcome. All right, it's the final presentation of the day. Have we saved the best for last? Well, everything has been great today. It's been wonderful.
Yeah,
It's been a nice variety show.
yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And thank you, whether this is your first session or your 5th session. Thanks for being here. And so I host these every quarter. So it's on the solstice, it's on the equinoxes. So June will be the next time that we do this. And if you're wondering, this doesn't look like Orsha. Orsha Magyar. There was a woman that was going to speak on neuroscience and nutrition.
Got a little lipstick for me or something?
Yeah, just kind of last minute, wasn't able to make it, but we always love hearing from Blaine.
Do you have clove oil on the shelf?
I will go
Is it
check.
Tester or something?
Yeah.
Just use.
Yeah,
I
I'll go
didn't have
check.
any to bring.
So recently, our essential oil display, we got a wonderful craftsman to build us little holders for all the oils. And then your logo is just like done beautifully in wood. So that's Doug Paul's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Doug, when he put all the oils back, none of them are in order. They're all in like, so I have to like search through and okay, what do we have? What don't we have? So I'll look for the dental pain. I'll look for clove. I'll look for a couple other things. But yeah. Anyways, we're gonna go to about 4:45. Blaine could probably go to about 7:45. So
That's true.
yeah, I'll be sure to get the cane ready
And-
at 4:45.
And he didn't mean today. Like I'd probably go till Thursday or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I won't take up any more of your time. This is Blaine Andrusek. If you don't know him, he'll introduce himself. Local legend. He's in the oil business, as they say, from Alberta, but all about essential oils and herbs, phytotherapy. Yeah, very long career, incredible source of knowledge and wisdom, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Malcolm. My main intent today was to talk about oral stuff, dental stuff, and that's where I'm going. But I guess just a quick little how I ended up here. I never wanted to be a herbalist. Aromatherapy, when I first heard about it, sounded flaky to me. But one thing at a time happened. Years ago, well, I had run away. I was frustrated as a young man living in the big city for the first time, and I just couldn't handle working for a living, wasn't making sense, and I decided maybe I could run away. I knew just enough about living in the woods that maybe I could. And that very night, I wrote a list of all the things I needed to take. And the next morning, I turned in my resignations at work and to my landlord and all of that sort of thing, and started planning. And it was me running away. But the people I talked to before I got there, people of all ages, who said, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, I want to do that someday. Older people would get a tear in their eye thinking, I want to do that one. I wish I would have done that. When a lot of young people would say, oh, I'm going to do that. And I knew they wouldn't. So by the time I ended up in the bush alone, I was pretty much doing it for everybody. And at one point, well, backing up a little, there seemed to be, I didn't know anything about totems back then. And it just seemed that there were always owls around keeping an eye on me somehow. Thank you. And I'll get somebody. Oh, I've got the dental pain, I think. So just close. Yeah. I'll get somebody, one of you maybe on the end can grab this at some, oh, just do it right now. Just pass that around. Anybody? So this is one of the simplest, oldest essential oils in the world. They've dug up very old skeletons of people that have had a clove bud slammed into one of their teeth because they probably had a deep cavity or a broken tooth or something. And they would literally push a clove bud in, just leave it there to slowly ooze out oil. So we've used it for centuries, perhaps pre-speech. But it comes from originally all around the Mediterranean area. And oils that are either hard to find or don't have much, the plants don't have much oil to give, stuff like rose, are very expensive. But clove is grown commercially. It's cheap. You can buy a big bag at Safeway. It's got lots of oil. So clove is, as far as I'm concerned, almost free. And that was in medicine chests when I was a little boy, something that I hadn't remembered until just a couple of days ago, thinking about today, was a day where as a little toddler, I'd had something wrong with the tooth and was screaming, crying. And one of my parents went to the medicine chest in the bathroom and pulled out some clove oil. And I can still, she took the non-business end of a wooden match and was dipping it in the clove and was trying to get it onto my tooth. And I can remember my father looking down, don't get any on his lips, Dora. She was, I know, I know. And there was this whole husband-wife thing going on. But so with essential oils, no matter what they are, if you take something like, in this case, clove, and you put them in a still, and as the still comes up to temperature, water turns into steam, and certain molecules of a plant are small enough, they're light enough to fly with the steam. They go, yippee, 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 we can fly, we can fly, we can fly. And away they go with the steam. But as they go through the condenser and come out the other side, they go, oh, but we can't swim. So the oils rise to the surface of what's called a hydrosol at that point. And we've got to respect that there's other things like carbolic acid and certain plant acids that come as well that are small enough to fly. So hydrosols, all of them, popular as rose water for facial use. Hydrosols are all acidic, which is good for the skin. Calgary tap water most weeks of the year is about 8.3, which is halfway to bleach. Like laying in a bathtub, why does your skin get wrinkly? Because you're allergic to Calgary tap water and your skin goes up 3 dress sizes. So it's too big and you get all wrinkly, right? So the first thing you should do after I'm way off topic here. The first thing you should do when you've washed your face, even before you go to sleep tonight and you pat it dry, is mist yourself with some sort of toner. The simplest toner is any hydrosol. I don't care what kind, but very popular is rose water. So your skin likes hydrosols, but essential oils are afraid of water. They're what is called hydrophobic. They're afraid of the water, so they rise to the top. But they're what's called lipolytic. That means they love, love, love anything fatty. So we dilute them for safe use on the skin. Now, the inside of your mouth is designed to eat pineapple and all sorts of different things that are quite strong chemically, but other parts of your skin, even your lips, aren't. So big thing about using clove oil, we can use it freely in the mouth, on the gums, but don't get it on your lips. So just kind of remember, if oils are new to you, that no matter what oil you're using, if you're using something you bought at the store, anything for massage, anywhere on the body, if your skin's turning red or being irritated, do not use water. The oil will want to get away from the water and your skin cells are fatty, so the reaction is going to get worse. And some of the people at the call line don't even know that. Bear spray is cayenne pepper oil. And the last thing you want to do if you get bear spray in your face is flush your eyes with water. It'll make it worse. Coming back from one of my camp out trips with a group of about 40 women some years ago, I was unpacking from a 3-day trip, and somehow the clip on the bear spray had come off, and I was throwing one box on another, and I shot myself in the face from this far away with bear spray. So I know why bears don't like it. So I hit the deck and I was laying on the concrete in front of my house. My ex-wife was walking by with her dog and just, honey, what's wrong? And I said, bear spray, just get in the house, grab some oil, what kind, anything, just grab the olive oil. And I just laid on the cement while she drizzled olive oil over my face. And then it's over in 20 seconds. So yes. So I've had people, like at a lot of classes, the first thing I do is pass some peppermint around. So everybody takes a drop of peppermint and they rubs their gums and you get super awake really fast. And I always say, now at a break, do not stick this finger in your eye or up your nose or any other orifice, because it's not going to be happy. It's going to burn. And there's always somebody, like right away, there's this woman screaming and she's getting up to leave. And I'm saying, like, wait a minute, are you going for water? Yes. No, get up here. And I have her tilt her head and put 5 drops of whatever I've got on the shelf. Could be jojoba, it could be almond oil, whatever, just 5 drops. It's over.
So if you're eating something like really hot peppers, you might have a child that reached for something and thought it was a plum. They didn't know it was an habanero pepper, and their mouth is just burning. Somebody might say, take some milk. Well, that worked when you had a real cow out in the yard the milk was about half fat. And today's world, people have 0.000% milk fat in the milk. So that's just the worst thing you can do. But grab whatever is in your kitchen for cooking oil, salad oil, whatever, anything unflavored. If you're on your own, grab something round like the end of a teaspoon and hold if this hand hopefully is clean, and just let it about just a couple of drops fall in your eye, 15 seconds, it's done. That's it. It works that fast, right? So that's just sort of a first aid thing about whether it's for your diet or for working with oil. So clove is a really, really strong one. And that's why, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Or whatever you got. I mean, you could use for food, you could use the butter dish if that's all you had, but anything fatty, unflavored, right? No chicken soup kind of thing. Okay, so we pass that around just to smell it. You've all worked with clove, probably, but what finally, I was introduced to oils in one of my classes when I was first studying herbology, and I didn't think that much about it. Aromatherapy sounded flaky. To be realistic, I think I've got an article I wrote a couple of months ago, I think is online, called Aroma What? Like, really? Because aromatherapy is a very, very, very well-studied, totally valid thing. But it suggests that aroma does the therapy, and that is very real. Some studies have shown that it works even below the threshold of smell. That means I could treat you for something without you even knowing it. That's creepy. So a guy listening to me at a conference in Milwaukee, his wife was with him, self-admitted, was having big problems with PMS. And what did we do? She wasn't too sure about trying something. I set him up with a PMS blend. He hid it in the hall closet. And every morning when he got up, he padded down to the bathroom to have, and just a drop about every 2 feet, put the coffee on. His wife got up 20 minutes later, padded barefoot down the hallway. There wasn't enough there to smell. And within about 6 to 8 weeks, he had a whole new wife. All of her PMS symptoms were gone. So it's below the threshold of smell. That's aromatherapy, using it for headaches and hormone imbalances and that sort of thing. Aromatherapy is real. But let's face it, if I'm putting lemongrass and tea tree oil on a fungal infection on somebody's toenail, it stinks. That's not aromatherapy, that's allopathic medicine. It's dose dependent. That's phytotherapy, herbal medicine, but it's not aromatherapy. And a lot of the work that I've done in my career treating pneumonias, fungal infections, and all sorts of things isn't really aromatherapy. It's that's phyto, plant therapy. And when I say I'm a phytotherapist, it gets me in trouble sometimes because this has really happened. People, oh, you work on dogs? And no, because they hear the phyto, and that's really happened. No, I'm not a vet. Okay, phyto is Latin for plant, and that's that. So again, working on something in the mouth isn't aromatherapy. It's herbal medicine or whatever else you want to call it, right? So we got to be careful about the lips. Eventually, after my courses, I started realizing there's two areas working with oils that really shine. One of them, as a really big outdoorsman, first aid is an issue. I've had lots of injuries over the years where I could have died. I could have bled out on I was just sharing a story here. I was carrying a big log one day. First thing I do when I'm setting up camp, going to be here for 3 days, is gather as much firewood as I can. So I only have to do it once. So I'm going out all over the island collecting firewood. And something that I learned, if I've got a log or something that I can't actually pick up, if I can lift one end and back under it and let it drop onto my shoulder, then I can grab it like this and carry it. And then I just have to be careful how I get it off my shoulder, right? So I'm finally getting back from the other side of the island near the tent. And I kind of lost my balance, and the tree came down. If I'd have been leaning a little bit more, it probably would have taken out my left knee, but I hadn't trimmed all the little broken branches off it. And a 10-inch dead tree branch went right through my left foot and pinned me to the forest floor. So I'm standing there with this tree crucifying me, sort of, thinking, oh, this isn't good. We've already portaged a big stretch of river, paddled another one, and paddled across a lake to get here. And I wanted to stay for 3 days. Do I have to abort the trip? I'd rather stay here and finish my holiday. And I had to look at my little first aid kit and think, what have I got in my first aid kit that might get me through this? And as I looked at everything that was there, I saw my little dental pain. This was meant for infections in the mouth or a cracked tooth or whatever. But I looked at it and I thought, what have I got in here? I got a whole bunch of clove, about half and half with one of tea tree's sisters, a little bit of cinnamon, because it's a really broad spectrum antibiotic. I think still the broadest spectrum antibiotic that doesn't interfere with your intestinal flora. That's interesting and helpful. And just a little bit of peppermint so that it tastes better. And I looked at that and I thought, by golly, pain, infection. So I'm thinking, yeah, okay, enough adrenaline's kicked in. I could, I managed to pull the tree. I had to pull it out over that stick, drag that stick. So I know that the dirt is full of rotten pine cones and squirrel poop and Lord knows what. So there's a bunch of debris in the hole. It's going to get infected for sure. And we're going to be fishing and stuff, portaging the canoe through mud. And I want to stay here for 3 days, and so, oh gosh. So yeah, that's when I got out the kit and I'm looking at dental pain. That might just do it. So I cleaned it as best I could, probably a bit of gauze padding there, and soaked it with dental pain and covered it with Ziploc. No, covered with duct tape. Thank you. And when we got out several days later, finished the trip, got to the L'Orange hospital. I told the doctor what's up, and I said, I'm concerned with 2 things. There's debris in there, and there may be some cracked parcels. So would you mind shooting a plate or 2? And he said, yeah, okay, but I don't care who you guys think you are, some kind of witch doctors or whatever. If there's cracked tarsals in there, that's officially an open fracture. So you're going to be going on antibiotics. I said, of course, there's no argument there. Of course, I get it. We'll do that, right? So the dental pain worked. And that's when I realized that dental pain was good for a lot of things other than what I made it for. This would be great on any sort of open fracture. Whether I was playing Frisbee in a city park or fell down or was out in the bush somewhere, I've got an open fracture. It's going to take me a while to get to the hospital or whatever. This is going to ease the pain and sterilize everything. Wow. Or if I sprained an ankle really badly, I could dilute it a lot and put it on a sprained ankle. But I would use it full strength in an open wound, right? So anyway, I was told a few years back that I had one tooth that kind of needed a root canal sometime soon, sooner the better. And I had done some talks at the Canadian Dental Association's annual conference. I didn't go to them, they found me somehow. So I'm in Toronto doing this talk, and I listened to a dentist say that, sorry, folks, but he's just speaking to his own peers. We've got major evidence now, not 20, 30, 40, 50% of virtually all root canals harbor residual infection and create further problems, migraine headaches, things that can even lead to jaw problems. So that's why a lot of root canals just aren't done anymore. But I was getting told I needed a root canal. And I thought, well, I'm just going to try and use my oils. So I took a few drops just on my finger, rubbed them on my gum on the bad spot. I did that every couple of hours for a day or two. Pain was all gone. I've had several students and clients that have tried that and told me the same thing. Now, there's two products you can get in virtually any drugstore. One's called Oragel, and the other one's called Anbesol. And if you look at the actual ingredients with Anbesol and my oil blend, it's pretty much the same chemistry, except I don't have the benzocaine. So your tongue doesn't go numb. You don't have all that annoying effect, but it seems to work as well. And I've had several people tell me that have also permanently avoided root canals. So I had this one that had, for years now, I just used it once in a while, but just crazy, busy, whatever. I live in a care home now. Different things get happening, and I wasn't paying attention, didn't get my oils out. And all of a sudden, man, it was pretty darn bad. And I'm thinking, I think I crossed the point this time. I better get to the dentist. So they do some x-rays and we see all of this massive infection. And we have the whole conversation about, well, we could just pull it, but you can't just pull it and do nothing because the other teeth are going to grow in and affect your whole bite. So, what we'd really like you to do is we're going to do this whole thing where we're going to pull it and then we have to fill the hole with something. So my brother had this done and they used cow bone. This dentist said, no, we use cadavers, actually. We think human bone takes better. I said, well, is it going to change my voice? Will I have an accent? So they, I finally, when I finally talked to him and he showed it to me while we were working on it, he said, well, this is actually 50-50. It's human bone and cow bone flakes. And then we got to draw some blood to mix the flakes that are dried with your blood so that the antibodies jive with yours so that their body doesn't reject it. So they have to fill this whole hole where they tore the tooth out with a pack that's now been stitched up and it's in my mouth. And I wait for a couple of months now for the jaw to heal. Then they go in and drill a big hole to put a steel post in, and then they set down on top of that a crown. So it's this whole process, right? So I'm getting set up for pulling a tooth and rebuilding my jaw, and I'm thinking this isn't going to be fun at all. Now that was Tuesday morning. I had that work done. And I'll admit that when I woke up on Wednesday, it wasn't pretty. So I took some of the wound gel. Oh, wrong one. I'm used to having a lot of toys on it too. I got nothing and I'm making a mess. So just soaking a Q-tip, getting it nice and doing that a few times on the top as well. Both sides of the hole. And I did that repetitively for about an hour. That was Wednesday morning. And I haven't used anything for pain since. All day yesterday, I've got double-powered Advils lined up if I need them. I've got lots of my oil blend if I need it. I haven't used anything all day yesterday or all day today. And I'm not being heroic. Wow. So what I usually have people do is if you've got a tooth such that the gum is, it's most of them is rather pressing it. I find things like a cotton ball or whatever, they fall apart, they abrade, and you get little bits of crap in your mouth, and it's annoying. So usually what I had done in the past was actually use scissors to cut a square of paper towel, and then it's not going to fall apart so much. Fold that in half, put several drops of the oil on it, kind of try and suck all the saliva out of your mouth. Maybe take a tissue even to kind of blot that, and then stick the paper towel with all the oil up there and just leave it in your mouth. Well, cheap trick. So you've got some little vial to put in your first aid kit that you can use for dental work, that you could also use for an open fracture or a severe sprain. That's a pretty nice little blend, yeah. And I just gave you the recipe. You could just use clove. I think the blend works better. And, you know, there's just a tiny amount of, I don't think it's going to affect my speech, a tiny amount of, my tongue got just a little bit there because I'm talking, but it's not going to affect my speech, I don't think. And what did that cost me to treat this week? 10 cents, maybe? What are the Advils worth? You know, like it's just, it's exceedingly affordable. So for first aid issues, oils have certainly become my best friend. And these little vials, you know, this I can drop on the floor, it's not going to break. These are pretty thick. And just so you're not confused when you're buying oils like orange or plain lemon, not the organic one, this much orange oil is worth nothing. But this bottle comes from Austria, and somebody has a patent for that dropper top. And, you know, frankly, that label is worth more than that much orange. So when you're buying some of the cheaper oils that are like orange oil, isn't, nobody's growing orange trees to make orange essential oil. Companies that make orange juice know that if they just crush the oranges, their juice is going to taste like crap because essential oil of orange is really bitter. Some of you might cook with a zester once in a while. Certain recipe you use a zester to scrape the rind off a citrus fruit. And ideally, I hope that's organic because citrus fruits are heavily sprayed with waxes and things, right? So that I like using orange, for example, in cranberry sauce. So it's not quite as sweet. It's a little more complex flavor. You got that little bitterness in there, right? So we found that I was thinking, Malcolm in particular, when I first found the organic orange oil that I'd been selling. So just to be clear, I'm not in this business anymore. My business has been sold. I did something really bad. I'm backing up to the beginning now. So I never wanted to be a herbalist. That first extended trip was 4 months on my own in the woods. I was studying plants and learning a few things. And when I came back to the city, oh yeah, I mentioned the owls. So the wardens came in one day and found me and they said, Blaine, we've had some calls from a young woman who would really like you to come out of your gray owl lifestyle here and take her to her grade 12 graduation. I was, are you kidding? I mean, I'm a whisper away from gray owl here, living in the woods alone in a loincloth, and she wants me to go back to the city and put on a suit and be in a big room full of people and, you know, do standard dances. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But she was persistent. So I got my way out of the woods, did the grad thing, came back to my cabin, glad that it wasn't destroyed or looted. And I kept thinking about things. Should I come or should I go? And the owls, again, I didn't know about totems back then, and you don't hear these voices. They're just in your head. But the owls said, Blaine, you've proved yourself here. You've graduated. You almost drowned twice. You got between a bear and her cubs. You could have starved. You were living in wolf country. You were this close from a bear with the cubs running up behind me. And here's the thing. It's a beautiful morning. It's dead calm, and I've gone this way in the canoe. There's only about from here to the door of open water on this big lake. And I've gone that way with the canoe, but I hadn't gone that way. So I thought I'll take the boat out, and I'm going up, and I find this beautiful big beach. Wow, it's a calm morning, so I don't really pull the canoe up that well. I just pull it up on the sand. I didn't tie it or anything. And I'm just like, there's butterflies and dragonflies, and I'm just, ooh-dee-doo, what and just me in my loincloth with a buckskin shirt and my little 7-inch pocket knife on my hip. And I'm just looking at everything and high on life and following this little trail. And I'm getting further and further from the lake into where I got to watch a little bit because my feet aren't tough yet. So don't want to step on any rose bushes. And I'm just looking at everything and grooving. And all of a sudden I freeze because if I had stepped one more step, I would have tripped over a bear's ass. And I didn't want it to be a bear's ass. I went in my mind through all of the other animals. It didn't know I was there yet. I was barefoot on a moist trail. There couldn't have been any breeze at all. It didn't smell me. And it was digging up, it was chewing on roots on a shrub. And it was, I finally realized, okay, I don't want to be here. I don't think this bear wants me to be here. I'll just get out of here. And I was just starting to back up, exit stage right, and I hear a twig crack and then a little sound almost like a sheep through my left ear. And that's when the blood would have been going off my face as I turned chalk white, completing the turn. She turned and lifted her head. And that's when I saw these beautiful white sclera of in her own backyard eating breakfast. I watched the blood vessels explode in her eyes. That adrenaline response isn't just for humans, it's for them other mammals too. And she was starting to turn, and that's when you would have seen the little circles coming off my feet. And I didn't look back until I hit the ice and cut my chest a little bit on the ice pack was there. And she was on the beach, and with the cubs are going, because they were initially, hey, Ma, who is this guy? Can we play with him, Ma? Can we keep him? But she just flipped out. And I didn't grow up on a farm. I wasn't around big animals. I wasn't used to I wasn't used to that sound. I don't know for sure, but I probably pissed myself and I'm bleeding. And I know that the water is 3 degrees different than ice. I can't stay in there very long. I got to get out of here. But as I walked in, I started walking along the edge of the ice, and the bear, huffing and puffing, walked right beside me along the beach. And when she got to the canoe, she walked around it, sniffed it a little. There was virtually nothing in there except a 12 gauge on the bottom and my camera case, which fortunately was tied to one of the thwarts. She walked around the canoe and then sat down. And I swear to this day that if a bear's paw could do this, that's what I was getting from this mama bear was, come and get it, stupid. So I couldn't stay in the water any longer and I had to go out and around. Why am I telling you this? Anyway, we're fine. I got far enough along. She stayed with the canoe and I got out and I had to take the trail all the way back to the cabin, which was about a mile and a half. That was my only weapon, was in the boat. And oh, I've got my little bow. It's a 40-pound recurve bow. I'm not going to take down a bear with a 40-pound bow. And the wind started coming up. And I was so afraid because with the waves coming in, I wouldn't hear the bear. And I hadn't pulled the canoe up properly. And the waves were getting bigger. And that was my only ticket home. The idea was if I decided to come home, that was my ticket home, was the canoe. But I couldn't go get it because I was so worried about the bear. And I had to just wait it out. And it ended up being asleep. I didn't sleep much that night, but I had a little bit of shut eye. I was worried about the bear. Okay, there's a bear nearby who doesn't like me very much, and I don't have a weapon. So it's dead calm. I'm barefoot. Get back to the canoe. And there's no bear around. And the canoe is way over there on the other end of the beach. It had washed up on top of a pile of rocks and was teetering a little bit on the rocks. And my camera bag, which wasn't intended to be waterproof, was floating there. And I was worried the boat was going to be all cracked. So I get over there. I had several cracks up to about this big. It was a fiberglass canoe. And something I'd known and taught, but never actually used, was that pine pitch is our original hot glue gun. All of the coniferous trees that grow all over the world, if they're injured, like somebody hits them with a hatchet or something, or a branch breaks in the wind, right? Like when we're poked, we bleed until a scab forms, or we put a bandage on. A tree doesn't have bandages, so they just drip pitch until it dries in the sun, and you get dried pitch, right? And in another part of the world, if we go over to, ooh, big trouble over there right now, but the Middle East, where there's desert shrubs, a whole family that include frankincense and myrrh. Now, what they need protection from is the sun, because their skin is out there all day in the hot sun until their skin cracks and it oozes what's called an oleoresin. It's almost identical to our spruce and pine trees. That's the family of chemicals, oleoresin. It's the same sort of thing. It's the first thing I put into an ingredient for aging skin to prevent crow's feet and such, to keep the skin tight. It's astringent, right? It's there to fix open wounds. So you find it's not hard to go find a pine tree and find some nice sized chunks of the dried. You don't want the pitchy stuff. You want to get the dried stuff. Ideally, I would have liked a tuna fish can or something, but I had to use the smallest lid of a pot that I had to melt the rosin at the edge of the campfire and just, make sure it's nice and dry in the sun and put drops on the cracks in the canoe, smear it on, let it dry. In 20 minutes, you can put it back in the water. I had that canoe for hundreds of miles of paddling after that. I never did improve that repair. It's the original thing that our First Nation friends used to put the feathers, the fletches on their arrows with, which are at a slight angle so that an arrow, arrows spiral through the air. They go further and further and straighter because they're spiraling. That's why rifles have what's called rifling in the barrel. So a bullet comes out spinning, blah, 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 blah. So it's our original hot glue gun. So I got another calm morning. The gun's all fine. And part of me was thinking, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to come home. And if I did, I had this image of myself with a bear claw necklace. And I was extremely well tanned, and in the best shape I've been in my adult life. And I paddled back to the beach. And the bear was there with the cubs. And as soon as she saw me, she let out a huff, and the two cubs went up the spruce tree. It was dead calm. I was in 10 inches of just dead calm water, and pulled up probably from about here to the front till. I was in 10 inches of water. I had a shotgun with 5 slugs in it. And I started lifting it. And I looked at her, and I looked at the cubs. And I thought, is this the price of a necklace? And I took the paddle in and made what's called a bow sweep and spun the boat around and went home. And I gave up big game hunting that day. I haven't shot anything. Well, I've killed grouse with a bow and arrow since, but I gave up hunting that day. It was a thing. She could have had me. And I'm so thankful that I never had my rifle on my shoulder that morning, because if I had, I would have only got it about this far off my shoulder. She would have had me on my butt and shredded me. So the good thing was I didn't have a gun that morning. I didn't die. The bear didn't die. And we all lived happily ever after. Anyway, yeah, lots of adventures. So the owls were saying, Blaine, you could stay here forever. You've proved you can do it. Be a nice life. But it's not why you're here. You're here this time to never stop learning and to teach. You've got a gift for it. I really enjoy that. Malcolm and a few others were doing a thing. We had this big fungi seminar at the downtown library. It's probably 10 years ago now. And he called to see if I would get involved and told me who was coming. And I thought, well, whoa, with everybody on that list, what do you need me for? Like, I'm everybody's junior. And this is when I was just realizing that as a herbalist, medicinal mushrooms were the last frontier. Like, bringing up dragon's or lion's mane this morning. I knew a lot of mushrooms that I liked eating. I'm an amateur mycologist. I didn't know anything about them being medicinal. Reishi was the first one I got into. If you look at the frequency that comes out of a reishi mushroom, it's kind of like, oh. And if you've just come out of a traffic jam with horns honking and your brain waves are like 55 a second, it's like, and you take some reishi, oh. So it's got all sorts of other effects, which were discussed already today. But to me, a big part of reishi, the calming, comes from its frequency. So the owls told me I had to come back. And I was considering going back to school. And it would have been medical school. And a very, very dear, she's a soulmate. We've been lifetime buddies since we were children. Yarrow's mother, Terry Willard's first wife, called me one day and said, Blaine, I kind of hooked up with one of my roommates. I think I'm going to marry this guy, so you better get over here and meet him. And I was over at their place for supper, and I had questions. Terry was just starting Wild Rose College, and I had questions, and he had answers. And if I hadn't had that meeting, it might have been medical school. But, anyway, he called one day telling me about this edible medicinal plant workshop that was coming up at SAIT. It was an 8-week course, just Tuesday evenings. And he was telling me more and more and more about the class. And I kept thinking, gosh, I hope I can go. I hope I can go. Gosh, I hope I can make it. And I said, when is it? And he said, well, I said, when is it? I hope I can go. And he said, well, so do I, because you're the instructor. And
Is he still on his introduction? 45 minutes later?
I think I got a low battery. Is that okay?
That's all right. Yeah. That'll actually
Are
give
we,
you a timer, a countdown. Yeah.
Okay, because I need to mention Mer. Yeah.
Sure.
So what had happened was they had a sold out class, and the guy who was supposed to teach it, boy, just bailed on them for some reason. And they had heard about Terry having started the college, and he thanked them, but said, sorry, but I'm booked on Tuesday nights. But I have a colleague, which at the time was complete bull. But that might apply now, but it sure didn't back then. He said, I have a colleague that can teach that for you. So, I don't know if you've ever seen something like a small dog. One of the many weird pets that I had over the years was a burrowing owl. And I had a Springer Spaniel. And once in a while, the burrowing owl somehow got out of its pen. And if it was on the floor and my Spaniel came running down the hallway, probably would have shredded the bird. That little bird lifted its wings and turned into an eagle. And to see the way that dog was backpedaling, sliding, on the floor. Anyway, where the heck did that come from? Oh, yes. So that was a hit, and Mount Royal heard about it, so they wanted me to do one, and then the city of Calgary wanted me to do one, and then they needed an instructor for Herb One at the college, and I said, I'm not ready for that, and they said, yes, you are, and I kept getting, so I didn't want to be a herbalist. I got pushed into it. I didn't want to be a teacher. I got pushed into it. And then there were things that I wanted for my patients. And there's a reason why, whether you talk to, I have to correct some of my peers some days, because I hate people that like to bash standard practice medicine. I never have. They've got lots of stuff I don't have, but I also hate standard practice people that don't respect what I do, because I've got good stuff in my little black bag too. And I've always been about, we can all play together. Like I've had prostate cancer. I've got 2 fake knees. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for standard practice medicine. I love working with them. And that's why I've gotten jobs working for hospital boards, teaching. There's more and more interest there, being invited to teach their staff about incorporating herbs. And I wouldn't have got those if I was all about bashing other practices, right? Anyway, all the way back to 3 wise guys guided by an impossible star that astronomers cannot explain. And I don't want to interrupt anybody else's beliefs, but I don't believe they can explain the Star of Bethlehem, because I think it was a ship guiding the 3 wise men to Bethlehem. But one of them brought myrrh. Myrrh. One of them brought frankincense. Today, frankincense and myrrh are still worth more than their weight in gold. Gold was the cheap gift. There was a 4th guy that brought a fruitcake. Apparently, they just threw him out. But anyway, myrrh is an oleoresin. Back to what I was saying, that's where I sidebar to fixing the canoe. So just as I could fix my canoe, myrrh is used in a lot of commercial toothpastes because it's astringent. It helps with spongy gums. And if you're getting big gum problems, it makes sense to buy essential oil of myrrh. Now be careful, because myrrh on its own comes out just like our pine sap does, and it dries in the sun, and little tidbits fall off, and children pick it in baskets full and take it to market, and it's all graded and so forth. So frankincense and myrrh start as an oleoresin that turns into a solid at room temperature, and then it's possible to steam distill it and get it back into a liquid state. But it doesn't last that long, so don't go for some jumbo bottle if you find it somewhere, if all you need is a little bit, because it's going to turn hard on you. And the only thing that you can do to reliquify it is you can heat it and maybe cut it with a bit of the strongest alcohol you can find. So you're kind of getting it back into a tincture state. But for gum work, I'd rather use essential oil than tincture, because tincture's alcohol, and if there's openness there, it's going to burn. Let's get your gum as dry as you can. Take a little bit of myrrh, smear it where the loose tooth is, where your gums are soft. Just rub it into the gums, and it'll help firm up the gums. And that's a pretty cheap trick. It's not a cheap oil, but just don't overbuy it. And you'll see how it works for spongy gums. And it's also my very, very favorite thing to use for phytos. A lot of things that happen to dogs, they're always licking their wounds, right? And so to prevent that, what do vets do? They put those cones on so they can't lick the wounds, right? Because they got a bad cut or a surgery, they put the cones on. And the good one, where I just lived was right at the top of the Center Street Bridge, the dog park there, Rotary Park. And I lived there 32 years, and now I'm in a care home. So there was a new gal in the neighborhood with a Great Dane. She was a massage therapist, and her and her boyfriend had just come to the neighborhood, and I'd met her Great Dane. And a lot of us were meeting at around 4:30, 5 o'clock, because their spouses would be coming home from work. And I came around the corner into the park, and Candace was there with the Great Dane, and it had a cone on its head that was about this big, you know, and I couldn't help thinking right away, right across Center Street from us is Jim Shaw's house, this big multi-million-dollar house, right? And I saw the dish on it was stupid. Like it literally was about that big. And I yelled at her, "How many channels does it get?" You know, just because I was looking at Shaw's house there. But he'd cut his foot on something, broken bottle or a can or something in the park, and they had to stitch him up, and he was favoring it. So they follow me home and I'll give you some myrrh. So myrrh is very bitter. And if you get anything, whether it's a rash or a cut, you put a couple drops of myrrh on it, and the dog will try it once and not lick it again. It's bitter. So I love it for any kind of first aid on dogs. You probably have myrrh.
No, again.
You don't sell myrrh?
Well, we
Or tincture?
normally do. We have it as a hydrosol, frankincense, myrrh combo. Your essential oils, we typically bring it in. I can't find it on the shelf right now.
No, but they're, you know, this, yeah, I got stuff here. So,
Okay, we're down to less than 10% now here, Blaine. So, and we're getting close to 5. So
questions?
Oh, frankincense.
frankincense.
Well, frankincense would be similarly useful. I tend to use it more in skincare, both of which, by the way, I had a number of clients, some of which it wasn't hippie, herbal, flaky stuff. These were naturopaths and whatnot that have been doing an awful lot with myrrh for breast cancer. I had some huge buyers using myrrh for breast cancer work. Just topical. Yeah, topical is. So, yeah, frankincense I think of more for calming and grounding. I have some in my room. If there's a bit of anything weird happening in the home, I'll take some frankincense and just it's another moment when I treasure your hydrosol of sweetgrass.
Oh, yeah.
Malcolm set me up with some of that. Sweetgrass hydrosol for me is like getting kissed by an angel. You know, it just. So I go more for skincare and meditative things with frankincense. I think they're both about the same price. But yeah.
What are the two essential oils you have there on the counter there?
Sorry?
What are the other two essential oils you have there on the counter that you have open?
Oh, I just happened to bring some strains and sprains in case I needed it for my knees. I have 2 knee replacements, and I did something. Part of me is thinking this. No.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not bear spray, no, yeah. Lean it in. And then frankincense and myrrh.
Oh, and then I got to give you this. Oh, you need the clove back. And that's your dental pain, I think.
Okay.
And this is my dental pain. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so at this point, I know we're already at 5, some people gotta go, this is gonna die any minute, but we'll keep it rolling as long as we can, and anybody who would like to stay, hear more stories, ask questions, feel free. Otherwise, yeah, we'll kind of pass around the hydrosols and just kind of let the day flow on. Thank you so much for being here. If you want the recordings, we're gonna post them up on YouTube. And if you did register, then you'll get direct links. Otherwise, just kind of watch out for them coming. And I know you'll keep going, but let's give Blaine a round of applause. Thank you so much. And if you're looking for any oils, they're out there. You just gotta literally go through every row and go like, okay.
Thank the owls. The other one that I brought here is something I usually take with me just when I'm going out, even shopping for an afternoon or any large group of people. I have an older gentleman right beside me at meals that coughs a lot, and I catch his spittle on my face, on my arms, on my bare legs. And so the last thing I do before going to the dining room is take a couple of drops of the Thieves Blend. So I'm sure most of you know about the Thieves Blend. And that's, what am I doing here with? Oh, I see. I don't have the dropper top because I put it on that one.
Essential oils do you recommend for stage kit?
Sorry? Well, we did a whole class on that just a couple of months ago. In fact, it was sort of my coming out party. But this is probably on the website. This is from a class. These are some very old notes. But number one for me, unless you get the blend that I make, would be basil, because it's the absolute best thing to have in a kit for a wasp sting. Now, there's a really common plant that's just everywhere in the city called plantain. And you can crush up plantain leaves on a wasp sting and it works brilliantly, but you have to leave them on with a piece of tape or something, or the pain will come back. So the nice thing about having the oil is that you could be on your work, like in the summer months, I don't leave home without it. If I'm gonna go walk the dog or just going anywhere in the summer, I always have a little vial in my pocket. Is the, I call it anti-venom. So what you want is anything astringent. Frankly, myrrh would be good on a sting as well. But the blend is basil, patchouli, and lesser amounts of cajeput and cinnamon. So when you are bitten or stung by anything, venom is spreading. Anything astringent is going to keep it from spreading so much. So there'll be less pain and swelling. But then we need to, with insects, consider what might be in their body parts. And I think we need to super sterilize the wounds. So that's why I like things like cinnamon. Back to what I said earlier, is an antibiotic, right? So super sterilize and take the pain away. There's always having it with me. Oh, not on that day. I was coming through, I used to do a loop down across town through Princess Island Bridge, back up, walking the dog. And I was coming through Princess Island Park. And there was a couple of mothers with a whole group of kids, and one of them was screaming and carrying on. And I kind of paused and looked and, excuse me, what's happened? And I said, Betsy's been stung by a wasp, really bad. And as I just paused there for a minute, I heard a djembe playing. Right? And I could smell just, once I heard the drum, I could pick up just a bit of reefer on the breeze. And I looked over under a I need a drink, under a poplar tree over there. There was a group of kind of dreadheads there kind of hanging out. And I said, ladies, just, I'll be right back. And I ran over because as I got closer, I could smell the patchouli over the pot. And I said, okay, somebody here's, some of you are wearing patchouli. I hope one of you has some in your purse. I just need one drop and I'll be right back. I'll give you my anything. I'll be right back. I just need it for an emergency over there. And the kids were all thinking, who is this guy? What's going on? What's happening here? And I ran over, got some patchouli, ran it back over and got this little screaming child. And there's a thing, when you put something like anti-venom, or in this case, just the patchouli, on a sting. I've been stung many times and I know how it feels. It's like getting stabbed with a hot fork or something, right? And the look on a child's face, because the pain's over in 5 seconds. And the look on the face is just this, who are you? What are you? Are you God? You know, where did you come from? Like, because it's impossible. It doesn't make sense that something could happen that quickly, but it does. And that's the basil. Basil is in a group of chemicals that are, that'd be another one you could use for toothache, frankly. But the group is called phenylpropanes, and they're pretty much anesthetic, anything licoricey. So the first thing in the, do I have, oh yeah, so here's dental pain. I've got an actual recipe now. Four parts clove, 4 parts cajeput, that's like tea tree, and then 2 parts each of cinnamon and peppermint. Clove, tea tree, 4 parts each. It's half and half. So when we say parts, that's drops or mils or whatever, right? Depending on how big your batch is. 4 parts each of clove, cajeput, and then 2, half that amount of cinnamon and peppermint. That's dental pain. But again, clove on its own will do just fine. And the first thing in anti-venom, I didn't quite hear you. Oh, the tea tree has, it's in a family of trees. There's 700 species in the Myrtaceae family, including, I think there's probably 60 kinds of eucalyptus. I work with 5, and there's about 8 kinds of tea tree that I know. So there's Melaleuca alternifolia is tea tree. And then there's one called Cajaputii, or Cajeput for short. It's just a little friendlier to use. It's as effective. It's just not quite as stinky, just a little kinder to work with. I call it tea tree's little sister. And then there's another one called, I'm going to say this like most people can't even read it if I write it down for you, Melaleuca quincunnervia viridiflora. So Melaleuca quincunnervia viridiflora, most writers just use the acronym, which is MQV. So on a price list or in a book, if you see MQV, that's Melaleuca, that's also known as Niuli, not neroli, which is orange blossoms, which are beautiful. This is like hardcore, this is tea tree's cranky aunt. Like it's just harsher on everything, but it's one of the things I would have in my grab the top shelf, end of the world, running for the hills bag. I would definitely have some Niuli in there.
Like Melaleuca.
It's another no, it's another Melaleuca, but just stick with tea tree. It's fine. So we had 4 parts clove, 4 parts tea tree, 2 parts each of cinnamon and peppermint. And then back to astringents on a sting. My anti-venom has a huge following. I don't leave home without it. Because when you're in the city, you're not going to, downtown, you're not going to find, the, gosh, now my brain's going dead. Most common weed in the city. Anyway, no. Yeah, did you know dandelion was brought here intentionally?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a useful plant. And then what do we do with it? You know, we use things that, why did we bring it here? Because it's such a good herb, especially for the kidneys and liver. So what do we use to get rid of it? Roundup, which is really hard on kidneys and liver. And then our pets and children go play barefoot on the chemicals. And, you know, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So I was at a thing at City Hall years ago where there was this big argument going on with the, we have to spray, we can't spray people. It was a big thing at City Hall, trying to justify the spraying that was going on. And I said, excuse me, I can't stay long. I've got to get to an appointment, but there's another option. And the whole room kind of stopped to look. I was alone up on some higher chairs and everybody stopped. And who is this guy? And I said, you could just eat it. And they all just, you know, that was a thing. Plantain is what I was trying to remember a moment ago. Yeah, but like I said, if you're on the run, you're going to a meeting or something, if you've got the oil, you can just rub a drop on. You don't have to find a plant and crush it up and, you know, tie it on with some tape or whatever. So thank you.
Thanks, Blaine, for all the information and the stories.
You mentioned something about plant oil. Am I wrong? I don't know anything about
Sorry, can you speak any louder?
Are you involved in how do you call it, aromatherapy or essential oil? Is the same thing? I don't know anything about it.
Well, essential oils come from plants all over the world,
Yes.
and 95% of them are used in food.
Essential oils.
Like chewing gum is made with the same peppermint that I was selling is in Wrigley's gum. I know, I met the people.
Most, I heard that and I read that when I go to a health food store,
Yes.
I always ask because I don't know anything. And they told me essential oils never used by themselves. Always apply, mix with a carrier oil. Is that true?
Oh, yes. Well, that's what I was saying about if you put the clove oil on your lip, it's going to blister. So if I was going to put clove oil on a sprained knee, even 5%,
Directly?
even no, that's what I'm saying. Even 5% would be enough. So it doesn't have to be rocket science. I would take a palm full of vegetable oil and a few drops of clove and then rub that on my knee. Yeah. So the general rule is the bigger the body area, the lower the concentration has to be. So if I have a bee sting, I can put basil right on that dot, pure. But if I was going to do my whole arm, I would cut it. 10 to 15% maybe. But if I was going to give you a back rub with it, I'd be down to 5%.
Okay. So essential oils looks like pure oils.
They should be, or if they aren't, it should say so on the label.
Is the kind of a study of oils or is different field?
Well, no, it's
Is the same thing?
aromatherapy products. I just realized I didn't even get to talking about Dr. Lister. That was supposed to be the whole focus of my talk this afternoon.
Because you started with saying aromatherapy and after you said essential, I mean, these oils and said which is which or is
What I was supposed to talk about mostly today was Dr. Lister. He was a surgeon. And when he started his practice, your odds of surviving any surgery was about 20%. That was about around 1900, 1920, you know? And he's the one that brought us due to sepsis. The best thing they had to clean scalpels with was vinegar. And the place was filthy. He'd have on this time of day a smock with 3 people's blood on it. And the place, the place was just filthy. That's why everybody was dying. So he realized there was this stuff called carbonic acid that they used to de-stink sewage. And he thought, maybe could I use that somehow to sterilize things? And he looked at the chemistry, and it's really high in a group of chemicals called phenols. And that's where some of the oils that we use, like you've heard of oregano oil, or my favorite there is red thyme. So oregano oil pure would burn your skin badly. The stuff that they sell in the store in a 30 ml bottle, that's been cut to about 30%. And then you still only take 3 or 4 drops, right? Or whatever. Yeah. Well, it's silly to use water because it doesn't mix with water. You should really, but anyway, that whatever works.
Next question is, you mentioned something for the skin. I like your skin. What do you put in there? You don't have any wrinkles.
What do you think for 70? I'm doing pretty good.
You're 70? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you mentioned something for the skin.
Well,
Is that a,
first thing every morning or any other time of day, first thing after washing, I mist with rose water. That's to neutralize Calgary tap water or any soap I might have used. I don't use soap. So I just wash with water, and then
you put in things to wash your?
typically I don't.
Say if you have a filter full of dust or things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
At night,
No, I would use some soap of some sort. Yeah. But I buy whatever you can find in the whatever you can find in the health food store that's acid balanced, they say, when it's a pH of about 5.
acid burns.
Yeah, look for the pH. Now, skin and hair don't have a pH, but the coating on them does. So inside, whoa.
Yeah.
Um,
And you put after washing your rose water spray. And after that,
as soon as I've washed and blotted dry, mist with rose water or any other hydrosol, like rosemary, like Malcolm's got several that he uses here. And then well, it's still wet, really, with not dripping or you're wasting product. But then you use whatever you've got for a cream or lotion that's your fine eye lotion or whatever. And I'm saying the first ingredients I would use would be rose oil and frankincense oil. I make a blend called rejuvenating cream. It's got about 20 oils in it. So anything that's astringent.
frankincense,
Yeah, geranium would be really good.
frankincense oil.
Yeah, geranium
So
oil.
frankincense should be just 1 drop, 2 drops.
Well, if you're gonna make up some cream, a jar.
You develop a cream yourself? Do
I
you sell something?
well, my favorite thing that I use personally, I've made it for many, many years, is